Hello there, and welcome to the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. As you've likely guessed by now, my name is Denise Alvarez, and I get to host you here on the podcast. And I'm so grateful you're here because I have part 2 of episode 137 prepared for you today. But before we dive into that, just in case for new friends, I want to introduce myself just so you can know a little bit about who's talking to you here about marketing and the heart behind the podcast and what I am doing. So as I said, my name is Denise, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream-chasing horse business owners like yourself to see clearly through the marketing overwhelm so that you can create a cohesive plan for your social media, your website, and your email marketing that will turn your online audience into your customers. Now, how do I do that? I do that specifically through one-on-one coaching, website design and website copywriting, and education such as this podcast, and I have some online learning resources as well. My heart truly is to help equestrian entrepreneurs be out in a barn or arena or behind the camera lens doing what it is that you love to do. And so, especially here on this podcast, you can always expect to get a mix of step-by-step strategies, essential how-tos, and entrepreneurial mindset shifts that will help you not only see what's possible for your business, but I'm also here to guide you through that process so you can make it happen. All right, there, friends, is my brief intro. Now let's dive in. I'm so glad you're joining me here because we're going to continue my conversation with Megan Sullivan of Elevated Equestrian and the Social Equestrian. Now, if you have not listened yet and you're new to Megan, then I would invite you to go back as well and listen to episode number 137. You can just go straight to stormlily.com/137 to get there on my website or on your favorite podcast player. Just go back one episode from this one, because in that episode, you will hear Megan share her story and the heart behind each of her businesses. And that will give you a great lens to understand why I have broken this into 2 episodes. So episode number 137, we talked about influencer marketing, and then we dove specifically into how influencers can make the most of influencer marketing in your business, and how influencer is not just that person that has 1 million followers or 500,000 followers or whatever follower count you have associated with influencers on social media. Because it really comes down to if you have built a brand that people trust and they look to you as a trusted resource. That makes you an influencer, my friend. And so if that is new information to you, or if you're thinking, oh, maybe I could be an influencer, what would that look like to work with brands? Then I want you to go back and listen to number 137 here on this podcast. And then today we're going to talk specifically to those of you who are the brand who would be working with an influencer. Now, again, you may have both of these hats on at different times. I do have some clients that I think fall into both categories. So when I say brand, I am talking about that business owner who is saying, most likely, I have a product. Most of the time, influencer marketing is related to product-based businesses. Now, I think you could creatively do it as a service-based business owner, and maybe eventually we'll do a podcast specific to that. But today I want you to think about if you have a specific product in the equestrian world that you are selling and you would work with an influencer for have some product placement and have them talking about your product or wearing your products or using them with their horses and giving out a code. There are lots of different ways that you would do it. But essentially, you're working with somebody on social media and they are going to promote your product to their audience. So that's who we're talking about for you as a brand. And so in this particular episode, you're going to hear Megan share some tips and strategies and things that you should keep in mind in order to make the most of those influencer partnerships, in order to get the real return on investment. Because the reality is, and Megan will talk about this, You may be diving in and saying, I'm just going to send free products to somebody, and that's the benefit that they get. And it's a low investment for me, but it's still an investment for you when you're sending product to someone. And we want to make sure that whatever level of investment that you're at, that you're getting a positive return. So we'll talk about that with Megan, and she's going to share some specific things that you can do. Now, as a reminder, Megan has launched something so cool, so neat that I'm so excited about because it is filling a gap in the industry, and that is the Social Equestrian. And I have partnered with her in this in such a way that I am actually helping provide some of the education on this platform because I really do believe in it. And what it is a place for you as a brand or you as an influencer to go on and to connect with what you're looking for. So for example, if you're a brand saying, okay, I do want to work with an influencer, how do I find that right one? What filters can I use or should I use? And rather than scrolling endlessly on social media, trying to find the right people, the Social Equestrian is a place where you can go and you can make a post and say, I'm looking to work with this type of influencer in this particular discipline, in this specific area that believes the same way that I do about my philosophies and training and whatever that may be. You can make a post and you can find the right influencer through the Social Equestrian. It's a really neat tool. And then, of course, inside of there, it's a community. And there's also education opportunities, is what I was sharing with about before, that I'm getting to help provide some of that education. And so before we even dive into these tips and strategies, can I just tell you my first tip is to get signed up for the Social Equestrian. So if you go to stormlily.com/influencer, you will get to go directly to the Social Equestrian and learn what they're providing, see the options, and get signed up and join and start that influencer marketing journey. Or if you're already in it, then if you've already started influencer marketing, go ahead and jump in too, because you're going to get connected with even more of the right people. Okay, friends, so that's tip number 1. And then Megan has some really good tips for you as well. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk to Megan Sullivan about influencer marketing for brands. Okay, so all of those things were specifically for influencers. So now let's talk to the brands, those brands who are wanting to work with influencers. What are the things they need to remember about these brand partnerships?
Absolutely. So my biggest thing with brands is their websites being mobile friendly.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot believe how many times I'm at the barn or at a place and someone's trying to show me something from a brand and we're trying to do it. Think about where we are. We're at a horse show. We're out in public. All we have is our phones and they're trying to find, and their website is not mobile friendly. And it is so frustrating that a lot of times you'll get this. Well, I'll just text you later when I find it. And I'm like, great. Because so now it's like the experience is past. I'm no longer buying this because the website was not mobile friendly. So that needs to be like the number one focus of all brands, is making sure their website is so easy in little things, like making sure you have a search bar. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like go through your navigation menu. No, make it so I can just search for the word to find the things really easily, and having strong SEO and making it mobile friendly, because it's going to be so much easier for your stuff to be shared, right? So just having that be a huge focus. Another thing I see brands do that influencers kind of are always like, oh my gosh, is brands try to use like cute names of things because they're trying to like really relate to the customer. I'll say like, like, oh, Power Pony Pants or something. And I'm like, okay, but now I'm an influencer and I have to talk about this. And how do I describe this in my own words? Because they use these like kitschy, cute names. And then it's really hard if I don't remember that exact like cute phrase that you used. If I heard that content from somewhere and I was driving and I had to wait until I stopped, and then I'm trying to remember what it was to go find it later, but they used like cute names and it made sense at the time. But I was like, yes. So the more plain English you can be as far as what people are searching for, because a lot of times people that are buying the things aren't necessarily in the equestrian space. A lot of times it's like the moms or the parents or someone that's not as well versed as some of the technical language that we use. And so you have to like make it a second grade level as far as like a search of what it is, and use those words on your product descriptions, because otherwise it makes it very challenging to find things. I will not call out any brands, but there's a couple of brands out there that are huge brands that just, Like, I was like, could you just have like an SEO and engineer go through your website, because this is so frustrating trying to find the things and it's so much extra work for me to curate the stuff. Could you just maybe call those something really simple to find and keeping
Exactly
it?
what
And
they
the
are.
biggest thing to look at is like, on Amazon, like how do you find things on Amazon, right? So it's like thinking back to like how that customer has that experience, and making it as easy as possible. On that note, my next point would be the checkout process should be so easy. And if you use websites like Shopify or something, I mean, they make it so easy, right? Your contact information is already stored in your phone. Like, it is so easy, because as a brand that's in person a lot with people, and so a lot of the items I make are print on demand. So the client has to actually go and then order it, choose their size, put in their information. So I watch people check out often from my own website. So I've been kind of blessed to be able to see what that experience looks like. And you are talking about people that can not really see that well, that are having you do things on a mobile, like think about all the different customers that you get that try to check out from your website. If you don't have that checkout so streamlined, so easy within 2 buttons, I can have it in my cart and be off your website. You're doing yourself a disservice, because not many people are willing to click through a multiple checkout process. There's tons of little plugins now, like Shop, the purple one that pops up for a buy button.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
why that one is getting so famous, right? Because it's so easy to check out, and you almost like buy things accidentally now, because you're just like, oh, I just blinked and it was in my cart and now it's in my home and this is so great. That's the experience your customers need to have on your website. Is it's so easy to check out. And just make that process as easy as possible. And, testing it out by doing like an incognito window. Like if you're going to be on someone's phone, like activate the private, because if you're doing it from your phone, your cookies are stored and it remembers that, right? So having like a brand new person do it that's never experienced what your brand looks like, that's the way you need to kind of double check to make sure that it's all systems a go, is have that. And again, think I get to see this a lot in person. But I see a lot of people struggle with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're making it so hard for customers to give you money. Like, it should be the easiest thing to give me money. And the more you can do to like speed up that process, the better. And the easier they're going to want to be to talk to you about somebody else, because their process was so easy. It wasn't something they fumbled with.
Right. Well, and when you think about the influencers needing to promote your or wanting to promote your stuff, right? If I'm an influencer and I'm sending people to this website, and then people are coming to me because I'm the one who sent them there and saying, okay, can you help me out? This is not working. My code's not being taken. What you said isn't happening. And then I'm taking my time as an influencer to go to the brand and say, hey, I'm getting these people that are telling me this. It's just not a simple, effective process, right? It just muddies the water. Yeah. So that's a huge
and
point.
I don't want to be a customer service representative of your brand. No offense. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
that's not my job.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So checking out as fast as possible. For brands, also thinking about gifts. Like if you have something that's a giftable item or something of that like having something like that does really well, because a lot of people buy horsey things for other people as gifts, I've noticed. So that's one thing that if I could just tell brands to have more, and that could even be as simple as like you're buying a pair of pants for yourself, but it has like a feature that prompts, oh, what also you could get this as a gift for your trainer, or something that like pops up that kind of like tells you to bundle something together or add something else as far as that like give back gift thing. Because if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 25% of purchases made are people buying things for somebody else in the equestrian space. And so I just don't think like enough brands have sat down to think about like how can we create something that's like, trainer appreciation, because a lot of these it's like parents trying to buy things for like trainers after a great show or things of that nature, and so just kind of like putting that out there, whether you're bundling something together or not, but really kind of advertising. And it can be as simple as a gift card. I mean, little things like that. I've seen a lot of brands that don't offer gift cards. And again, depending on who you're using for, websites, Shopify makes it very easy for gift cards. Just activating little things like that. Like that's a huge miss by not having something like that available. And gift cards are a great way to make money as a brand. So making sure that you have those. You touched on this earlier, but I was going to say making it easy for people to share and like share things in general. And that includes like your social handles, making those readily available to people, whether that's on your business cards, on your website, there's any place you can put your social handle, put it as much as humanly possible to make it easy for make it everyone to share. The more you put it out there, that it'll be easier for them to share.
Okay, so good. All right, here's a very practical question about that. So, and I am sure this education is inside of, I haven't been in there yet, but I'm sure this is in the social equestrian. But I'm going to ask this question because I think that sometimes we have this haphazard approach, especially if they're a brand, if they're very first starting out, right? It's like, how formal do you get? Do you just send them an email and say, hey, I would love to work? Or we actually guarantee you it's a DM, right? It's actually DMs. Hey, I'd love to work with you. Can I send you some product? Then, right, we're talking about making it easy to share. Do they put together like a one pager that's like, here's what needs to be said about, these are the words I want you to use. These are the images that are allowed. Or like you talked about, like the helmet is big in the English world, of course, so that's something else we have not even talked about. We keep saying equestrian, which is often how the English side talks, but on the Western side, it's a little bit different. So even talking about like a brand guide, those types of things. How formal for somebody who's listening and saying, okay, I've really wanted to work with writers. I've really thought about working with some micro influencers. How formal do I really need to get when it comes to putting these agreements together, saying what they can or can't do, that type of thing? What do you recommend?
So that is the $1,000,000 question because
right.
so you can get it done with bare bones, like meat and potatoes. You can get fantastic results with not a lot of work. With that will come the less information you give, the less road work they have to work with, and you will get these out of box. So the more information, the more clear you can be on your deliverables. If you can create all of that stuff, and we have a lot of resources to help with things like that, the better your content is always going to be. You're not having to go back and forth trying to explain a concept. You can just show them, point them. So the more work that you do and the clearer you are with your ask and expectation, the better your content is going to be. Unless that you see them already doing it for somebody else in exact way that you want, you can just mention the same way that you did for X, Y, and Z. But a lot of times influencers won't want to like repeat, like if they did something really cute and unique and funny, they won't necessarily want to repeat that with just a different brand, right? That's
right.
going to be
Yeah.
their message. So yeah, the more you can do on that homework front, the better it's going to be as far as your results. Just know that some of the like we'll call them micro influencers, the younger ones might be kind of overwhelmed with some of that. So I feel like you kind of almost need two versions, right? You can have like a really detailed kind of bigger one when you're working with someone of that caliber that can digest that information and do something with it. But if you were to send that to someone that's just starting out, it may seem like, oh, that's way more homework than I had looked. It just seems very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So my thing would be, depending on the level that you want to work at, is kind of having it and be in both versions. And making it really easy. Hey, I wanted you, when you're at the barn today, when you're tacking up, can you just record a 15-second clip of you putting the product on and then telling the audience why you opted for that today in your ride? It could be as easy as that. You could probably get a really good piece of content from that. So yeah, I like both sides have value on that. The more information you give people, you usually get better results, but you'll also be surprised. Some people are really creative and they'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times people from my own brand have done things that I was like, I never even thought to talk about it like that. Like the child that was working my booth one day that told me the bandanas are equestrian capes and that's how she sells them to kids. And I was like, I've never described it as an equestrian cape before.
Awesome.
And she's like, yes, if they're older, you need to tell them that it protects their skin. But if they're younger, you need to tell them that it gives them confidence. And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
that is not, yeah,
this kid's on fire.
Yeah, she's incredible. But that's what I'm saying. Like you just sometimes you hear things, you're like, I never thought, or it's on TikTok Shop and they talk about it like this, and I'm like, oh, do they?
Yeah, give them some creative freedom. That's that's really good.
Yes, and people do really well when you give them options. Like here's 3 things. Pick which one speaks to you, kind of thing. People do really well with options. All of them you're comfortable with, but just give them like 3 different things and let them kind of choose. That way they still feel like they're creative, but it's still going to be on brand with what you're looking for. And then also build out, if they want to deliver extra content, you already gave them the ideas of other things they can do.
Oh, that's so good. That's a really, really good point. Yeah, because that's the thing. Influencers kind of love this idea that they can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? So if you're like hampering that, you are hampering their creativity. And yet some of the business owners are going, yeah, but I have a brand that I'm trying to protect. So I love that idea. Give them options. Super good.
Yes. Last couple things for brands would just be posting as much social proof as possible. That's a real thing. People do definitely buy when they see real other people, because the last thing I want to do is see a brand that's only using models and people that look a certain way. I want to see how my friend Tiffany looks in this out. You know what I mean? I want to see someone that's kind of on my level that has dirty hair that just got done grooming their horse. Like I want to see how she's rocking this. And there's a couple of brands out there that they're doing so well because most of their content is user generated and they're not even prompting. It's just people are so willing to get it and they're constantly sharing it and promoting. Oh, so and so just rocked it at this thing and they were wearing this. And you get what you give, right? So encouraging people to send you, oh, I'd love to see how you're wearing it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
asking for that kind of social proof goes a long way and using that as content
Yeah.
because it keeps it more authentic and it keeps it more real and it keeps it more relatable because now that person looks like me. They're at the similar caliber versus these like super well groomed models are sometimes kind of hard to relate to.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. For those that are listening and saying, but I just did a full branding shoot. How do you mix that in and keep that authentic vibe while also using your professional images that invested in because they look really good and high quality? What does that look like
Awesome.
for a
Yep.
brand?
Yes. So I always say the rule of thumb is stories is the best place to put things that are in that kind of world, right? Because I can't necessarily control the image of the person, they weren't paid. This is so using your stories, but then also saving those down to highlights, right? So having a highlight where it's just like customer feedback or, customer outfits or, reviews or something like that. So that way it still stays there, it's still accessible. But then you can control kind of your feed of what you want your customer to actually have that journey. If it's super
Mm-hmm.
well done and it's on brand with you and you're comfortable tagging it and adding it to your feed, have at it. But as stories is kind of the best place to kind of share that social proof. And that's where a lot of your like quick sales are going to happen anyways in stories because you can use the sticker button to buy and things of that nature
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So
Good point.
it's like, oh, so and so's wearing that. I didn't realize that was available. Click buy right there.
Yeah. Okay. Super good. All right. I think you had maybe one or two more for brands. I think I jumped in on you.
So the last one, it's okay. Yeah. So the last one is just with brands in general. Biggest thing is just not ignoring micro influencers because a lot of times when I'm sitting with these brands and we're kind of going through things, they're like, well, they don't have enough followers. And this is something, and I'm like, so here's the thing at this point where I have worked with, influencers of all calibers, some of the best influencers I know have under 10,000 followers. I've gotten more everything, sales content from under 10,000 followers. Micro
Mhm.
influencers are something to not be ignored. It's something that needs to be leveraged more. It's more real. They're more, the people that are watching their stories, they probably know on a first name basis. Like those are the type of people that you're going to end up buying from. And as far as brand recognition, those are the ones that I think need to be highlighted more. And a lot of them are like, well, but it's so hard to work with them. Again, going back to the brand setting themselves up for success, give them the roadmap, point them in the
Yeah.
direction. Hopefully now there's resources like the Social Equestrian that you can be like, hey, I know you're trying to get started with this, log into this portal and figure out this training first, something of that nature. But micro influencers are the thing of the future. Like I definitely think that's where it's going. I think they're creating more authentic and real content, which people appreciate. It's not as curated. It's a lot more obtainable, and the cost of work with them is a fraction of what it is for some of these really big influencers. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck if you're just willing to kind of find the ones that are hungry to do so. It's just most of the time the pushback is like, yeah, but it's so hard to find them. Well, insert the Social Equestrian. We're hoping
Right.
to have the platform
Exactly.
curated full of very hungry
Yeah.
riders. And again, like the sweet spot's going to be those kind of up and coming micro influencers that probably still all work, different jobs on top of it. But the
Hmm.
content they're providing is valuable and their connection to their communities are real.
Right. And they've built trust. Right. And so with
Yes.
that, because some of those bigger ones, frankly, you do question, do they really use that product or not? But when it is somebody that has less than 10,000, the micro influencer, I just don't feel like you question it as much. I don't know. Maybe it's because they present it really well. But or, and we shouldn't assume, right? I know we shouldn't assume, but just from a pure like visitor perspective, in an audience, when I'm scrolling through and I see somebody that has 100,000 followers versus the one that's 10,000, then I'm more likely to think that that person is using that product or that brand. So it
I
builds
also feel like I'm
trust.
supporting, yes, and I feel like I'm supporting them too. Like I'm genuinely
Yeah, I love
supporting
that.
them growing their business, and that's really, what a lot of us do what we do, right? Is because you want to give back to the community and you want to support. And if I can help fund move that person, I would
I
much
love
rather
that.
use their affiliate link to buy something.
Yeah.
And see the results versus those $100,000, I have no idea. Like, I assume you don't need the money at that point.
Right,
It's kind of
exactly.
like what we all think, which is also very false. But
right.
you
Back to
know,
those
it's
assumptions, but it's true.
yeah,
And here's the thing: if we both are feeling that way, then lots of your buyers are feeling that way too. To remind like the brands, like this is why we're saying that because lots of those buyers are feeling that way too. So don't undermine the power of the micro
yeah.
influencer.
My favorite phrase is the vanity metrics is the biggest thing. If I can distill the vanity metrics, if everyone thinks the things that matter the most, follower count of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what does that matter? It doesn't like,
Right.
and then the more you can distill what that actually means and what does matter, the world is just going to be a better place in the social media space.
I know, right? Yeah. And those key performance indicators. So for you brands, like, no, okay, yes, look at follower count, considering organic reach and views and things like that. But then decide, okay, how are we going to measure success? What, is it only going to be, like you talked about earlier, is it only going to be the number of sales, or is it also going to be DMs? Is it also going to be reach because we're going to build on that over time? Or is it going to be email addresses? Or, there's so many different ways to measure success. So just know what your goal is going into it. And then you'll be able to measure if that worked well or not.
Exactly. You get it.
Right. Okay, friends. So for everybody listening, we've given you the strategies. We've given you like the practical things, which is what we always do on the podcast. But I'm so excited because I've gotten to partner with Megan on her new project. And so I am one of the quote unquote experts, which I wouldn't, I wouldn't say that, but that's what I'm labeled as. So there we go for marketing and email marketing, because that is my sweet spot and that is where I'm passionate about. So for those of you that are listening and saying, okay, I either have already been working with influencers and I want to do more of that, or I could potentially be an influencer and I want to work with brands, and this sounds like a really magic solution, then share with us, Megan, a little bit more about what those next steps should be. What can people what can they expect when they log in? Tell us kind of a little bit more about that platform and what to expect there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Social Equestrian, socialequestrian.com is the website. And there's two options. You can either join monthly, or if you want to commit to the entire year, awesome. The pricing is a little bit easier that way for you because right now we're kind of in launch phase. So the pricing is at a discount. It will go up a touch in September. But really, the first thing you do when you log into the platform is look at all the content that's available to you. So if you're, say, an influencer trying to work with brands, what are you missing from your portfolio? Do you have a media kit? Okay, I don't have a media kit. There's a training on watching a media kit. There's templates in there to get a media kit. Maybe you want to double check to make sure your profile kind of hits all the marks that we're looking for. There's a training on that. You don't currently have email marketing set up. There's a training on that. So kind of going through and seeing what your gaps are first and getting yourself caught up to speed. And then from there, there's a community forum. So you can go on there and ask questions to the community if you're struggling with something, or if you're trying to find something. It functions similar to like a Facebook kind of community group. You can ask questions in there. If there's something on there where you log in and you're like, oh, actually, I was kind of hoping I would have a training on the AI repurpose IO. You can request a training. So there's a button on there. You can just go in and request a training and ask for something. If you are an influencer and you're trying to find a certain brand, okay, so go to the networking platform, see everything that's being posted by the brands of what they're looking for. Well, I was really hoping to look for a helmet company. You don't currently have, there's a request a brand feature. So you can go in, request what brand you want. I will do my best to try to get it on the platform. But it allows the user to kind of help create the experience, right? Because ultimately, this platform's only as good as the people that are on it. And so the more we can do to create content, create resources, create a community, create a network that's going to help build your brand and build those connections. And it can be things that, say you need a equestrian photographer, you're traveling for a show and you're trying to find an equestrian photographer in a different coast that you're normally used to. Put it in the community chat. Let's find it. Go to the membership directory, see who's in there. There's a lot of features like that kind of built in that you're able to kind of close those gaps that you currently have, and help get kind of caught up to speed from there. And then as a brand, obviously same kind of thing. And a lot of brands have like interns or somebody else. The person that owns the company is not always the one running their social media. And so a lot of times it's like these revolving doors of interns that they get in that they're like, yeah, I just need, X, Y, and Z. So pointing them to the Social Equestrian as a place that they can log into and get caught up to speed on what they're missing out. Maybe they need a template to hire an influencer. Maybe they need a contract for something. All of that kind of stuff will be built into it. Same thing. Brands can request, influencers, brands can request trainings. It goes both ways. And then brands, again, if you're looking for influencers, you post into the job market that's like, hey, I'm looking to hire, 2 influencers at this kind of level, this caliber. This is what we're looking to do. Whether you want to disclose pricing or not, but then you put in there like how to contact to apply. And that way, then they can do their negotiations and handle it from there. But it's a way that they can kind of like help. And maybe you'll see on there, oh, so and so's organizing a brand shoot in Florida for this. And it's like, well, actually, I'm this brand. I want to jump on. And that's what I hope there's a lot of that is that collaboration between, because I just know personally, like the brands that I've collaborated with, things I've like, it's just, you can just 10x your results if you work with somebody else. And that's the whole realm of the social equestrian is real, authentic people looking to connect and create a better community. Like that's all this is if I wish I could take my best 5 friends that are my trusted business advisors and share them with the world, that's what this is. I hope that when you log in, it is like you asking your trusted advisor, your barn bestie, someone that you want for advice, and that you're going to find the resources there to do so.
Okay. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped, everybody, because this is such a needed thing in our space too. And I'm also pumped because of your heart, Megan. Like when I hear your heart behind it, like that's why when I know, like, yes, you're a business owner. And we've talked about that. Like it obviously the social equestrian is not completely free. It has taken time, energy, and resources to put in there, but your heart behind it really is to serve the community and connect the right people. And I think when that's the case, then some of the best products, the best connections, the best end results come about. So that's why I'm so excited about this. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And so everybody listening, I want you to head to stormlily.com/influencer and get signed up. And like she said, when this podcast launches, so it depends on when you're listening, this is launching in July 2024. And so when this launches, it is live. So I want you to head there. If you are listening after July 2024, I still want you to go there and get all of the information that you need and get signed up. It's going to be so, so good.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This was such an amazing opportunity to be able to present. And I've learned so much from you. Like I said, that's how I found you initially was through your podcast and the information that you provide to us. And you were such a value add to the community. So again, the more I can do to connect with people like you and share them with the world, that is exactly what we're looking to create at the Social Equestrian.
I love it. I'm so grateful. Well, I will put all the links, of course, on the show notes, but go ahead, if you will, Megan, give them the social handles and the things, the places you want them to go. If they're like, hey, I heard about that magnetic bandana and I need one, where do I go?
Awesome. Yeah. So Elevated Equestrian is everything as far as riding wise that I do. So it's elevated_equestrian_, and then the website is just Elevated Equestrian. Same thing for Facebook. And then Instagram for the Social Equestrian is the Social Equestrian, but if there's underscores in between each word, so every space is an underscore. So it's the_social_equestrian_. And then the website is just thesocialequestrian.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for giving so generously of your time and your talents and your energy and effort to our community. We are better because of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, friends, I hope you were taking good notes because Megan absolutely brought some important things that I want you to remember for your business as you are preparing to make the most of working with influencers and using influencer marketing to help you reach the goals that you have for your business. Because my heart is always to remind you to have that filter. What's the why? What's the goal? What are you working towards? And if influencer marketing can help you to get closer to that and it's well aligned with the vision you have for your business, then I absolutely encourage you to start dipping your toes in the water and trying it out. So again, head to stormlily.com/influencer to get connected with the Social Equestrian. But I also want to remind you of a free resource that Megan created. We talked about it a little bit more in depth in episode number 137, but I want you to hear about it here as well. So Megan created a resource just for my podcast listeners that's going to help you to optimize your social media bio. So whether you're an influencer or a brand or both, the reality is when people land on your social media profiles, I want them to very easily know who you're for, what problems you solve, how you help them, how they can get in touch, and it can be optimized so that when they land there, they already have qualified themselves if they're a good lead for you or not. And so in this resource from Megan, she's going to help you to optimize your bio. So if you go to stormlily.com/bio, you can grab that. It's completely free. And for all the links. Okay. So I know I just gave you some extra links for all of these things to make it super easy for you. You can always go to the show notes for the episode. This is episode number 138. So go to stormlily.com/138 and I will have everything you need to know there, as well as the highlights of my conversation with Megan, so that if maybe there's a note that you missed, you can go there and grab that. All right, friends, I'm so excited for you. I have been wanting to talk about influencer marketing on the podcast. And so this connection with Megan and this new resource was the perfect way to do it. Now, if you have other questions about influencer marketing, I would love to hear them. And maybe in the future, we can do another follow-up podcast to make sure that we're really meeting your needs and helping you in the best way possible. So always feel free to reach out on social media. I'm Storm Lily Marketing everywhere you go. Well, I shouldn't say that everywhere you go. Hang out on Facebook and Instagram mostly right now. Remember that filter we talked about. My filter also has to do with time and family. And so I am not everywhere, but I am on Facebook and Instagram. And then, of course, the website and email and here on the podcast. All right. If this was helpful to you, share it with a friend, share the love, let others know that this resource is available for their horse business as well. Leave a review on the podcast. That will help more people to find out about it. And stay tuned. I have more guests that I am bringing to you in the coming weeks, and then friends that I want to introduce you to, and people I know that you're going to be able to learn from. Thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. I hope you have an amazing day.